started. Um, Welcome everyone to the Fields and Forests webinar. My name is Heather Kingery, and I am the Senior Account Manager for the Fields and Forests program, as well as our sister program, the Family Forest Carbon program, and the practices we offer there. Um, Today, just a few housekeeping items before we get started. Um, we are going to be recording this webinar, and so we will send out a recording of the webinar to all participants afterwards. So if there's information you want to reference, you'll get a copy of that. And there will also be a live Q&A at the end. So if you go down in Zoom, there should be a Q&A box that you can type your questions in that we'll be able to answer at the end. And we'll try to give you a few reminders throughout the presentation to get those questions in. You can enter them at any time while we're talking, so no need to wait. Again, my name's Heather Kingery. I'm going to be sharing more about the program overview. With me today, I have two of our outreach foresters. I have Molly Hoops, who's going to talk a little bit more about what to expect when enrolling in the Fields and Forests program, as well as Chuck Black, who will cover our FAQ before we get to that live Q&A at the end where we can dig into the details that you all want to know. So we can go ahead and get started. The Fields and Forests program is an opportunity that is run by the American Forest Foundation, and we work with landowners in the Southeast to plant and grow loblolly pine trees on open land. This is intended to help diversify income from property and provide opportunities for multiple revenue streams. So it's not exclusive of farming. Both can coexist on the same property. The American Forest Foundation is a national nonprofit organization. We've been around since 1932, helping landowners, family forest owners care for their property. And you may be familiar with one of our programs, the American Tree Farm System. Often you'll see green and white diamond signs as you're driving around in rural areas. And that is for the American Tree Farm System. And yeah, that is one of our programs. So we offer Fields and Forests to help farmers and landowners diversify their operations and generate a low maintenance revenue stream from underutilized land while continuing to grow crops or graze cattle on adjacent acres. Like I said, it's not exclusive of that opportunity to continue farming operations. We know that there are often barriers to establishing pine plantations and forests on property. It can be quite expensive to do so and require some technical expertise. So we cover those upfront costs for landowners and coordinate all of the logistics associated with getting trees in the ground and provide that professional forestry support. So like I said, Molly and Chuck are both foresters with our program and help to enroll landowners and provide the knowledge and plans needed to manage trees long term. By supporting landowners to grow working pine forests, we're increasing the amount of carbon stored on the land, which helps our mission of creating meaningful conservation impact. So it's a win-win. We hope to help landowners, and we are able to meet our goals as an organization. Few of our program basics that we'll get into in a little bit more detail. All of the upfront costs and logistics are covered by the program. We are currently running a promotion for landowners who enroll by the end of March to receive payments of $40 per acre per year, which is above our standard offering of $30 per acre per year. Again, that's for landowners, $40 per acre per year for landowners enrolling before the end of March. As a landowner enrolled in the Fields and Forests program, you keep all revenue generated on the property from timber harvest, the sale of hunting leases, pine straw, anything like that that you might do. We require a minimum of 30 acres of eligible land to be planted. So if you have more, you can elect to only plant 30. There is no maximum acreage. The contract length is 30 years, and we do have staff foresters and consulting foresters that work with our program that we will connect you with. To be eligible for the Fields and Forests program, the property must be located in the historical range of loblolly pine in Alabama, Georgia, Florida, and South Carolina. The land must be privately owned, so that can include nonprofits, LLCs, other partnerships, and it has at least 30 acres of open fields. If you do not have 30 acres of open land or less than 30 acres that you're considering for planting, we still encourage you to reach out to us, and we may have opportunities to work with you and for you to work with neighbors or other nearby landowners who are also planting to get trees in the ground on your property. One of the key components of eligibility is that the land cannot have had trees on it for at least the last 10 years. So if it was previously a pine plantation that was harvested in the last 10 years, that would not be eligible, or any hardwood forest that you've cut. It needs to be open land for 10 years. And you also must have the legal right to harvest the timber if you choose to do so. Okay, now we'll get a little bit more into the benefits for landowners. Again, we're talking guaranteed annual payments. Right now, the promotion is $40 per acre per year for the 30-year contract. That is limited through the end of March. If you decide to enroll after that time period, we cannot guarantee that it'll still be 40. It might go back to 30. So if this is something you're considering, we encourage you to reach out sooner rather than later. That $40 per acre per year is your money. You can use it however you wish. Unlike some other programs, it's not tied to any on-the-ground operations or actions that you're taking. And our payment rate accounts for an increase in the value of carbon over the course of the contract. So we've already factored in things like inflation, anticipated growth in the market, and we've guaranteed that payment rate. So we're also protecting you from any downturns in the market. So you can see an example of what your offer would look like if you were to enroll 30 acres at that $40 per acre per year rate, annual payments of $1,200 and a total contract value of $36,000. There are also a lot of costs associated with getting those trees in the ground. And so here we've outlined some of the main items that are covered by our program and that we pay for and we facilitate. So that's site prep, which could be spraying herbicide. It could be mechanical site prep. We cover the cost of seedlings. So we order them, ship them, store them until they're ready to go in the ground. We have crews who get those trees actually planted for you. If you need a herbicide release treatment after the trees are established, we will cover that. You also receive a forest management plan. That's to guide your forest management actions for the next 30 years. That's provided by our program. And we have professional foresters who oversee the whole operation. And of course, if planting isn't successful or if there's significant mortality, we do come in and replant. So hopefully we won't need to do that, but we will guarantee a 85% survival rate of your pines, or we will replant. You can see that all adds up to about $600 per acre in cost savings. You also are able to keep the revenue of any timber harvesting that you do during the contract period. So we have some minimum requirements before you can harvest that timber, but typically between years 25 and 30, the trees are big enough that you can sell them as high quality saw logs, and you keep the revenue from that. Um, Unlike our traditional row crops, you can work with the forester to time your harvest based on the performance of timber markets and maximize your potential revenue. Um, and another great benefit is if you harvest during or before year 30 of the contract, we will replant the property for you at no additional cost to you. So you can see here an estimated harvest income of $60,000 um, during the contract period for a 30-acre project. So adding that all up, the program payments, the cost savings on site prep and planting, the forest management plan, and the timber revenue, for a 30-acre project, you could be looking at over $115,000 in value over the 30-year contract. So great financial benefit as well as the ecological benefits that we see for the property. Timber tends to be a relatively low maintenance income stream, so there's no upfront investment from you as the landowner or time commitment. Of course, you are able to be as involved as you would like to be in the tree planting, site prep, that sort of thing, but there's very little administrative work that is required on your part. Our professional foresters and our technicians conduct all site prep and planting. We coordinate with those professionals, and we provide those really high quality seedlings. There's no day-to-day operational needs, and it's really easily managed by future generations. We know a lot of landowners that we work with are considering legacy, kind of what they're setting up for the next generation, and pine ends up being a really good option due to the relatively low inputs required to get that long-term value. There is no change in ownership or access to your property when you enroll in the Fields and Forests program. You're not required to open your land to the public, and any visits from our program staff or contractors will be coordinated with you in advance. So we are required contractually to give you notice if we plan to access your land. We'll never just show up. We see a lot of benefits for adjacent land as well. Water retention for farming land, wildlife habitat, recreation, both in those planted acres and adjacent property. And you get ongoing support from our program. So forestry guidance, that forest management plan, that is for you, for future generations, from our program and our local partners. And we have a network of other landowners who are managing their property in similar ways that you can connect with as well, and receive updates from our program on new resources as they become available. All right, I'm going to hand it over now to Molly to chat about what to expect when enrolling. And again, we encourage you to pop your questions in that Q&A that we will answer at the end of the webinar.
Hi, everyone. My name is Molly Hooks. I am one of the staff foresters with the Fields and Forests program, and I'm going to be going over what to expect when you enroll in Fields and Forests. So the first step for enrollment is going to be conducting a site visit with one of our foresters. That could be a forester like me, who's a staff forester, or one of our consulting foresters. They'll conduct an on-site visit at no cost to you. You're welcome to join, of course, but you're not required to be there. The forester is going to walk the land, assess the boundaries to make sure that they look correct on what we have on our end, And ultimately, they'll confirm the number of eligible acres for planting. Your forester is going to be a point of contact for any questions you have about the operational side of things, the forestry side of things, anything like that. They're going to collect data, which is going to be sent to your account manager, and that's going to be used to create an offer and plan the project. Later on, a second visit will be scheduled with you to install monitoring plots, which will allow us to measure the carbon benefit of the project. And these monitoring plots are simply just wooden stakes delineated in the ground, about usually a fourth of an acre. And that's where we measure the carbon benefit. And like Heather mentioned earlier, no AFF staff members or contractors are going to come onto your property without ample notice. The next step is going to be site preparation. So your forester is going to help oversee site preparation through the crews and companies that we use. This usually involves 1 to 2 rounds of chemical site prep, and we also use mechanical site prep if that's needed. Sometimes even prescribed burning might be a good option to go. We explore those options with you, and that's usually conducted in the late summer and fall months, sometimes even into winter, depending on operational needs. And if you have a consulting forester, they are welcome to join us. If you have a forester that you already work with, we're more than happy to have them join us and work with us on this project. And now the fun part, which is going to be planting. We provide loblolly pine seedlings at no cost to you. There's going to be 2 types of seedling varieties that are available. Those are going to be coastal or Piedmont. That's based on where the landowner is in their geographic region. We also have contracted planting crews that are going to plant your trees using that lovely equipment right there connected to the tractor. And wherever we can't get with that equipment, we're going to use hand planting. And along with site prep, if you have a forester you work with, they're welcome to join during these operational times. And during the first year, we actually will work to ensure the survival of these trees. We do use genetically modified seedlings, mass control pollinated, excuse me, which they typically lead to faster growing, better quality timber, and improved disease and pest resistance compared to standard pine seedlings. And we actually have a around 85% survival rate. Or threshold, which is kind of a higher threshold as compared to other tree planting programs. And then after planting, you're allowed to do a thinning and a harvest. You must notify AFF if you do any recommended thinning or harvesting within the contract period. Pine stands typically meet the recommended volume for thinning between years 12 to 17. You don't have to thin. It is an option that you're allowed to do, and you keep all profit that you might make from that. However, again, it's up to you if you don't want to thin, if it's not looking, good for you in the moment, if it's not a good time, you don't have to, or you can hold off until you and your consulting forester can discuss and decide if that's a good choice for you. If you do harvest within the 30-year contract, you are required to replant the harvested area. However, we will help pay to prepare and replant the harvested areas within the project area. As for controlling competing vegetation, you're allowed to do treatments such as burning, chemical release, and hardwood control. That's not going to be covered by the program necessarily after planting. Just talk to us. We can discuss options. And then again, like Heather mentioned earlier, you get a free forest management plan written for you. This forest management plan doesn't just cover the planted pines, they'll actually cover your whole property. So, should you have, let's say, a wildlife opening or other pine stands that have already been planted for a number of years or hardwood stands, your forest management plan is going to cover your entire property, not just our planted trees. So, if you have specific goals that you want to work towards, on your property, we can help write a forest management plan that will tailor um, the operations to help meet those specific goals you might have for your property. And it's going to serve as a guide for you and help you care for your new forest post enrollment. And here's a quick little timeline about what to expect should you choose to enroll in our program. After 60 days of signing your contract, you actually will get your first payment. After that, in March to July of this year, you will work with your forester to develop your forest management plan, talk to them about what your goals are, what exactly you want to manage for on your land, and we can, like I mentioned earlier, help tailor that plan best to your goals. In August to October, that's when site preparation usually takes place. In December to March of next year, we will begin planting. Um, in 2027, in November 2027, we'll start doing those first year survival checks to make sure, or post planting survival checks to make sure that everything's looking good. And then from years 2 to 30, your forest management plan is going to serve as a guide for future management activities. And of course, your forester and your account manager are going to be there with you to decide uh, what is best for your land. If you have any questions or suggestions, you can always come to us. And I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Chuck, to talk about frequently asked questions about the program.
Thank you, Molly. Yeah, as Molly said, I'm going to address the frequently asked questions. My name is Chuck Black. I'm an outreach forester located in Tennessee. So, one of the first questions everybody asks is, how are we funded? How is Fields and Forests funded? And we get our funding in three different ways. We get our funding through the voluntary carbon market, grants, and private donations, carbon credit purchase agreements with corporations who prepay for credits. We get funding either from organization that either provides us with grants or loans. And we also get some donations from private and public as well. And one of the things we like to note is AFF is a nonprofit organization. We do not have shareholders and we're not looking, investors are not looking for a return, and we don't make a profit from your land. So on the chart or the little infograph on the right, it begins with the landowners. The landowners sequester carbon. Once that carbon is sequestered, it creates a verified carbon credit, and then those carbon credits are then sold to partnering companies and known as purchase credits. So how are the credits generated? What we like to do is we like to go beyond business as usual. And there's two terms. First is additionality. Additionality is a carbon credit, is a high quality if it represents an actual change in the atmospheric concentration of carbon dioxide. Secondly, is how do we measure that? And we use a methodology using dynamic baseline. And it is to isolate fields and forests as the single variable that contributes to carbon removal. In a nutshell, what that means is we compare projects, enrolled projects of fields and forests versus projects or areas that are not enrolled in fields and forests to see if we're capturing or adding additional CO2. And it is verified by Verra, a third-party nonprofit certifier of carbon offsets. A lot of questions we get is why loblolly pine? And loblolly pine is the most common native tree species in the American Southeast. It has a fast growth rate, growing more than 2 feet per year, reaching heights of up to 90 feet. It's highly adaptable, successful in both wet lowlands or in dry areas. It's highly resilient to severe weather. Loblolly produces high value timber, and compared to other species, loblolly pine captures and stores carbon more efficiently. Another question we get to is what happens in the event of a natural disaster? We have a natural disaster safeguard. There's no penalty to the landowner, and AFF may replant or adjust contracted acres. So we have in the next three slides. The first slide, we're going to be addressing timber markets. And this slide is showing a comparison of the different markets throughout of softwood sawlog prices. And one of the terms or one of the words we can use for softwood sawlog prices here in the US South is consistency. As you can see on the bottom part of the chart, it is circled in red. It's a flat line or basically consistent. Softwood sawlog prices are very consistent here in the South. Sawlog prices in the Northwest, as you can see on this chart, have demonstrated noticeable volatility compared to the prices in the South. Once again, the current market. We are seeing a lot of movement of wood industries to the South, and the companies are relocating operations to the U.S. South because they are attracted by the stable manufacturing cost, lower labor and energy expenses, and the strategic shift is spurring reinvestment and revitalization in the area. So if you look at the bar graph, the U.S. South is highlighted in orange, and you basically see that it outperforms all the other areas located on that bar graph. So what is the projections for the future? According to the World Bank, it predicts the global demand for timber will quadruple by 2050. And one of the areas that is going to quadruple in is what we would call composite boards, OSB, CLT. These are laminated products. And what's good for that is what a laminated timber is a layered and bonded wood building material. And it's cross-laminated timber, which can use small diameter or even diseased trees to create a strong, lightweight building material. And according as of June 2023, we have seen 1,860 mass timber construction projects completed or planned. And there has been one recently completed here in Georgia, one large mass timber building. So next, I'm going to hand it back to Heather, and she is going to detail the enrollment steps.
Thanks, Chuck. And just as a reminder, we do have a few questions already in the Q&A, but feel free to drop those in as we near the end of the presentation here. So as you're considering whether this program is a good fit for you and your property, the steps towards enrollment first include checking your property's eligibility on our website. There's a mapping tool. You select your property, and then it matches you with the opportunities that you are eligible for. From there, you have the option to book with a representative. So most likely you'll be talking to myself. We have a few other folks who will take those initial calls, but we would have a conversation about your property, your interests, and make sure that there aren't any barriers in terms of eligibility in your enrollment. Then we would connect you with a forester. So it could be Chuck, could be Molly, could be a number of our great other foresters that we work with. They come out to your property, develop a planting plan, a map that outlines where that is, confirm that on the ground conditions match what we're seeing for eligibility. And there's no cost associated with any of this. So it's no commitment and no cost to get that forestry site visit. and that offer prepared for you. Um, Once we have the map, we prepare a financial offer for enrollment, and then your account manager, like I said, probably me, will share that with you. Um, and you, at that point, decide whether or not you do want to move forward with this opportunity. Once you confirm that you're ready to move forward, we prepare your contract and we send it out for signing, and then you're enrolled. At that point, you go through the steps of getting the forest management plan prepared and the site prep and planting that Molly outlined. And I see here in the chat that Sarah dropped the link to our eligibility um, site or the part of our website where you do that. So feel free to click that link, submit your information, and our team is ready to talk to you about what the next steps are for your property. We do have a couple of limited time offers. We are nearing the end of our enrollment period, and so to help encourage folks to take quick action, if this is a opportunity you are interested in pursuing, we're offering a signing bonus. So for landowners who sign a contract by the end of March, we are offering an additional $1,000 or $10 per acre, whichever is greater, as a thank you. And as we talked about kind of at the top of the webinar, we are running a limited time promotion where we're enrolling folks for $40 per acre per year instead of our standard 30. So there's no guarantee that we will be able to offer this long term, but we are offering it for landowners who enroll in the next couple of months. So please reach out if you are interested in taking advantage of that. Again, check your eligibility on our website and book a call with us. We're ready. All right, let's get into the Q&A here. I see some good questions in the chat and um, in the Q&A section. So the first question that I'm going to answer is, if I sign my land into this program, do y'all sell carbon credits from my land? So the answer to that is yes, we do sell carbon credits. So we're a carbon program. Our goal is to help family forest landowners gain access to carbon markets, which have historically excluded smaller acreages. So we are working with Netflix right now to sell our credits generated from this program to them. Okay, question for the foresters. What stocking rate are we using for planting?
I can answer. Oh, or Chuck. It
No,
doesn't
you're
matter.
fine. Go ahead, Molly.
I just answered this question the other day, so it's at the top of my mind. We plant at 519 trees per acre. That's the current rate that we have right now. That could change based on, market needs. But as of now, 519 trees per acre are planted.
Great, thank you. Another quick question. Did you say that land in an LLC was eligible or not? Yes, LLCs are eligible. We do not enroll public land, so state, county, parks, that sort of thing. But LLCs, privately owned, is eligible for our program. Okay. Question for our foresters. Is there any assistance offered with harvesting? Past experience showed that after harvest, there were significant costs in clearing up the debris and stumping.
I can help answer this, Chuck, unless you have a better answer. Um, this is a new program, so of course we haven't been around 30 years to see a full harvest yet. Um, But the idea is that eventually we would like to provide landowners with loggers that we trust and have a good relationship with to kind of hopefully not have that as an issue for landowners when they do harvest. I've heard that before from other landowners that loggers have left, stumps or skid trails not completely cleaned up. Um, so that's something that we're working on and anticipating down the line. Chuck, do you have anything to add
No, I
about that?
think you're right. Exactly. Well, like you said, it's a brand new program, so we haven't really addressed that issue yet, but I'm sure we'll be flexible to that, like
Hmm.
as we see what happens after a harvest and so forth, and just kind of see what we need to do to help with the landowners to continue enrollment in the process.
Thank you. All right. Someone is asking about having a large tract, mostly in pasture. To get to the 30-acre minimum, can we have different sections of the field planted, leaving pasture in other areas? So yes is
Yeah.
the answer to that. The minimum that we can plant both operationally and through our methodology is about 2.5 acres. So as long as the sections that you're looking to plant are 2.5 acres or larger, we can kind of divide up over the property how that is laid out to reach the 30-acre minimum.
Yes, they don't have to be contiguous. I just wanted
Right.
to add on to that. We do require each planting area to be 1 hectare or 2.47 acres. So each, scattered planting area does have to meet that 1 hectare minimum. But as long as it reaches 30 acres scattered throughout the property, you're good.
Thank you. Contiguous. That's the word. It does not need to be
Yeah.
contiguous. Um, yes, couple questions here about recording. This webinar is recorded. You will get an email with the recording um, after we get that all taken care of. So for those of you who missed part of it or want to revisit any of the content, you will get the webinar as a recording in your email. Um, okay, another forestry question. Looks like there is some chatter about mills shutting down all over Florida. We've heard this from landowners in Georgia as well. Do either of you want to speak to concerns about, maybe future harvesting with the mill closures?
Yeah, I can address that. I think the biggest question they're asking is pulp mills. We are seeing a lot of the smaller or the what the smaller diameter trees are not as attractive anymore. The pulp markets are sluggish. And that is one of the things we have seen and what I addressed was we are starting to see companies come into the South to utilize those smaller trees in these cross-laminated timbers. Another option we can also explore, and I think we've thrown it around, is, Molly addressed genetically modified or genetically using seedlings, and hopefully, possibly, we can grow them a little faster and maybe kind of reduce the amount of pulpwood in the stand and try to push it more to what we would call a chip and saw product. Molly, do you have anything else?
No, you hit the nail on the head. Yeah, I think pulp market is the number one kind of concern for landowners at the moment. And we're right now we're sitting at five, like I mentioned earlier, 519 trees per acre. But we're looking at possibly changing planting density eventually also to maybe promote better saw timber rather than pulp down the road. But you hit the nail on the head, Chuck.
Great. I see a contract question in here. What happens at the end of the 30-year contracts? What options do landowners have after the end of 30 years. So at the end of 30 years, if you choose, you can, um, wash your hands of us and say, thank you. We've fulfilled our commitment to the program. But we also have the option to renew the contract for another 30 years. At that time, both you as the landowner and us as the Fields and Forest program would need to agree to renew that contract, and then we would renegotiate terms at that time, payments, any changes in planting or anything like that, that come about as a result, um, for the next term. There's a question about land that is already planted with pine trees. Um, if the land already has pine trees on it, then it doesn't qualify, correct? That's the question.
Right.
So yes, if the land is already planted in pine, that would not be eligible for this Fields and Forest program, or if it has recently been harvested. So in order to be eligible, it needs to be 30 acres of land that has not had trees on it for at least 10 years. So open land. Um, Attendee looking for clarification from our foresters. The question is, you said MCP seedlings are genetically modified, but aren't they hybrided using controlled pollination?
I am not 100% sure of the you can go ahead, Chuck, too.
No,
If
go ahead, Molly.
I was just going to say, I'm not 100% sure of the process of MCP seedlings. Um, but if I misspoke and said they were genetically modified, I'm sorry. But they are genetically in, I don't know what a better word for, but they're mass control pollinated. So I'm not sure of the 100% science behind it, unless Chuck, you do. But they're basically, you can look at the science specifically through ArborGen. I'm sure some of y'all have heard of them, but they have a lot of different options for mass control pollinated seedlings, and you can actually go on their website and see the differences between MCP planted pine trees versus standard seedlings. And you can really see a difference, especially on their website, since they have had enough time with MCP seedlings to kind of notice and document the differences in growing patterns. Do you have anything to add, Chuck?
Yeah, basically what it is, it's they have taken they have genetically tried to improve the growth rates and the viability of the trees by utilizing different strains of loblolly and trying to modify them into one particular area. It's similar like row crops and corn and so forth. They have seedlings and so forth that have different resistant factors and things like that. So that is basically what we're referring to instead of just a standard loblolly pine that you pull out of the woods. You really don't know what the survivability rate's going to be and so forth like that. But by this, they have kind of controlled and understand what the survivability rates and kind of what the growth rates are going to be, and gives us a little more prediction of survivability of the seedling.
Thanks, foresters. That's a question way over my head. So great job. Couple of questions that I can answer here quickly. If the land is in a trust, it does qualify. So trusts, um, partnerships, LLCs, I've mentioned that. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones that we see. Nonprofit organizations, all of those do qualify. Um, a couple questions in here about, does the payment rate increase year over year? Is there an escalator on the per acre price 20 years from now, $40 won't be worth what it is now. So those are great questions. We do have built into our payment rates an increase in value. So we've, considered like inflation as well as the value of carbon markets and what we are predicting um, in terms of both of those kind of built into the rate. And then as landowners, and just for simplicity's sake, we kind of flatten that out. So you're not seeing an increase in value in your payment rates each year, but it is factored into what we can offer. The other thing that I'll mention is that there is a contract clause that talks about revenue sharing. So that would go into effect in the event that carbon markets grow beyond our anticipated rate that we've already factored in. In that case, we would exercise the option to share those proceeds or that revenue back with enrolled landowners. And since we're a nonprofit, we are able to do that. We're not answering to shareholders. We are trying to do the most good for the most landowners, so that fits well with our goals. Question for the foresters. What if the land is scrub palmettos and small oaks? Does that qualify or not? Can you talk a little bit about the eligibility for what we like to call here growed up land with some shrubs and stuff on it?
Um, I can start. And Chuck, feel free to add on, interject at any point. I know that we have about a 10% canopy coverage clause where if an open area has 10% or more of tree canopy already established, whether that's through palmettos or small oaks, we cannot enroll that land if it's too grown up in that sense. That's due to our methodology for studying carbon and how we're measuring the carbon benefit. If we're, you know, clearing out land of already established trees, then that goes against the methodology. Chuck, do you have anything to add?
No, that is correct. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
whole reasoning behind the 10% canopy is utilizing the dynamic methodology that I spoke about. We want land that had not been in production for 10 years, so it kind of gives us that additionality that we had been talking about. So
Mhm.
that is the reason why that threshold is put in there, that 10% canopy.
Great, thank you. I see there's a question here about programs for people looking to purchase land. Well, we, as an organization, don't are unable to support that. We may be able to follow up with some resources to point you in the right direction um, for land acquisition. Again, clarification about post-harvesting assistance with cleanup of what's left behind. Again, if you are harvesting within the 30-year contract, we do go back and replant. So our program would take care of any debris cleanup that's required in order to put trees back in the ground there.
Yeah.
Hope that provides clarity for you. Um,
I think I can answer this question about the using fields and forests to bid work to local vendors that you work with for planting and prep. I think this might be a case by case basis. I know that I have had a landowner recently, a landowner who wanted to do some extra site prep for his land before we did planting for his land. Actually, this month, it could be happening right now. Um, but he reached out and asked, he had a buddy that he's been working with for a while that helps him manage his land, and he wanted to do a prescribed burn. We had not worked with this contractor before, but we were able to get in touch with this contractor, set up a little contract between us and him, and we were actually able to provide funding for them to do a prescribed burn on the property before planting. So I think I don't want to say a concrete yes or no, but I do think that case by case, if you talk to us, we can definitely, I think, work out an option for you if you have local folks that you have been working with in regards to site prep and other operations. And eventually, hopefully, for thinning and harvesting, we haven't gotten to that road yet. We're still a new program, but that is, that would be a goal to kind of invest back into the local economy in that way and provide those opportunities for local contractors. But yes, and I think that's the um, the answer I can give right now.
Thanks, Molly.
Mhm,
Yeah, we do always try to work with your existing relationships, whether that's foresters and land managers. And so,
mhm.
yeah, on a case by case basis, we definitely want to chat with you about the connections you have and the relationships you want to maintain. Um, Great. Well, I am seeing that we don't have any other questions in the chat at the moment. Again, we are our team here. We're ready to assist each and every one of you who's interested in learning more about the program. Again, even if you are like that March deadline is too quick for me to make a decision, we still encourage you to check your eligibility. We'll send you some more information and just start learning about the opportunity that your land qualifies for. If not for planting in the 2026-2027 season, then planting the year after. Um, any final thoughts or questions? All right. Well, thank you all so much for attending and look for a follow-up email from us with the webinar recording.
Thank you, everybody, for your interest in the fields and forest.
Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.